Other interesting business news, you have the Bugatti Tourbillion being revealed. It is a hybrid with a V16 though, and a $4 million price tag. Even though it is called the Tourbillion, you only need $4 million to purchase this work of art. Though, you know me, to me it's a little bit blasphemous or bastardized since it's an automatic. I know the Bugatti have been automatic for what, 50 plus years, something like that. But, oh no, actually no, not the EB110. That was a manual transmission, as all cars should be. But nevertheless, this comes to us thanks to Motor1.com. And it looks pretty cool. It's got 16 cylinders. That's a good part. It also has 3 electric motors. Now, top speed is pretty fun. 276 miles per hour. And it looks pretty incredible. Well, it's a 6-minute video, so we're not going to watch the whole thing of their review. We'll look at the pictures and the little highlights here. Here's a nice little top-down picture. Interestingly enough, if you're just tuning in, you're not visualizing seeing the show today, the windshield wiper, to me, one of the weirdest things about this, it actually looks perfectly, it completes the design when it's in the center, because there's almost like a spine going along the whole vehicle. And the windshield wiper, and there's just one giant blade, so the pivot point is in the middle of the car, and it's set so the blade is dividing the window in half, so it's perfectly in the center. And that theme is carried to the hood, so the hood has a little spine as well. It looks really weird, but the more I see it, the more it kind of grows on me. It's one of those unique designs. Now, granted, I think it's mostly blasphemous. You know, it's got the hybrid mode, and then it's got its pros and cons. Now, granted, there is zero reason for Bugatti to take any of my feedback. I mean, I drive a Honda Civic Si with a stick shift. I'm definitely not their core clientele. That's way out of my price point for foreseeable future, unless I get very, very fortunate things to happen. Now, this is an article brought to us by Christopher Smith over at, again, Motor1.com. I'll read a couple little bit tidbits here. They say, quote, "This is not another Bugatti Citroën derivative. This is certainly a striking resemblance to the old W16 power hyper car, but now it's a completely new beast. The monocoque is new, the suspension is new, and the sorry, I almost threw up in my mouth. The hybrid V16 powertrain is most definitely new. Say hello to Bugatti's next generation 1,800 horsepower flagship, the Tourbillion. The previous reports about the engine were true. This is, in fact, an 8.3-liter monster that revs up to 9,500 RPM and makes 1,000 horsepower without any turbochargers. Cosworth helped develop the naturally aspirated beast, which weighs just 555 pounds despite being significantly larger than the W16 it replaces. This is also about 664 foot-pounds of torque, but of greater interest here is the other half of the powertrain." Lies. That last part was me. Lies. I don't think anyone cares about that, personally. But we'll read that for the 3 people who do want to hear that about that. I'm kidding. I know there's 4 people who want to hear the specifics about this. Now, they say, quote, "We're talking about the hybrid assistance. The front E-axle carries 2 electric motors, with a 3rd motor positioned in the back to help spin the rear wheels. At 25 kilowatts an hour, centrally mounted battery pack supplies power, adding 800 horsepower to the mix. The combined output is 1,800 horsepower, and provided the bespoke Michelin Pilot Sport Cup 2 tires, they have enough grip. The Tourbillion reaches 62 miles an hour." The hell cares about that? Oh yeah, it's a European car. That is correlated to 100 kilometers per hour. So 0 to 62 miles per hour is 2 seconds, which is ridiculously good. They say, but that's not a proper metric to convey the Tourbillion's pure performance. Under full throttle, 124 miles per hour, it reached at around 5 seconds. 185 miles per hour rises in a mere 10 seconds. Top speed of 236 miles per hour happens in less than 25 seconds. Unless you have the special key installed. When activated, the Tourbillon keeps its ginormous rear wing hunkered down with speed that climbs up to 276 miles per hour. And it does carry a lot of the themes of old. I mean, it is an entirely new infrastructure, it sounds like, in terms of the actual, engine, transmission, but definitely you kind of see the Chiron themes. So at the side of the car, you see that very iconic little swoop. So there's a little bit of carryover. Looks a little bit more angular on front. They expanded the air intake part. You saw the iconic Bugatti badge there. To me, the rear just looks a little weird. The exhaust is pushed up. Now got an awesome, carbon fiber rear diffuser. The exhaust is almost in the middle. So again, traditionally you have the exhaust, you actually see the tips, and they're usually at the bottom of the car, like, in terms of the bottom bumper. This one is really high up in the middle. Very similar to the last design. We have some nice little LED or little lights on it. Looks like it's got the good old pop-up doors, just like the, well, I would say the better car, the McLaren F1, the OG supercar that had a good old V12 and a stick shift, as all cars should have by default. And of course, there's little themes carry over with that. It looks pretty interesting with those type of pop-up windows, so to say. And it looks kind of neat. And they say that the latest Bugatti doesn't lose anything in becoming a hybrid. Well, except a little bit of weight. Yes, despite the battery pack and electric motors, Bugatti says the Tourbillon is lighter than the Chiron. Well, yes, because, well, you add a subtract, you're adding the battery, you're adding the motors and the batteries, you're certainly subtracting from somewhere else. So I'm guessing increased uses of carbon fiber and other advanced materials. They say that it can currently cruise around town using the V16, which, again, that is pretty cool. That is pretty rare. A predominantly majority of engines, might be heartbreaking to think in the U.S., might be an inline 4 by now in terms of volume of units sold, but the most popular configuration in the U.S. in terms of America probably be the V8, where you have 4 cylinders on each side in a V configuration. And granted, this might be rudimentary if you're a gearhead, but traditionally having 16 cylinders is most well known in the W configuration. And having this as a V16, that is pretty cool and unique. I really try to think how many times you see that on a. Again, this is not going to be a mass production car, but that is pretty neat to say the least. Now, again, this next sentence is written for the one person who's going to buy this. Probably, I say that one person who's going to buy this. I think many people who tune in the show will actually have the opportunity to buy this for your trajectory. I wouldn't be too surprised. But in terms of the people who care about this one sentence, that has to be like one person on the planet. Maybe two. Now they say, quote, actually, you can go beyond town with an estimated EV range of 37 miles. So if you want to just use the EV part of the car and not use the V16, is almost that. I can't. It's almost incomprehensible to have a V16 and only use the electric part. Now, the nice part in terms of technology is they're allowing you to choose. So they're letting you actually. They have a little cute little dial, and you can choose exactly how this vehicle operates. So you can choose, ICE only. So if you only want to use a V16, you could have that. If you want to use a hybrid, we have both combined, you can do that. And then, of course, for some reason, if you wanted to use this just as an EV for that 37 miles, I guess you could technically do that for the one person who wants that. Now, they also say that it also uses a 800-volt system. And the nice thing is that, again, this has a nice engine. I say that because the person who took over the company is Matt Rumack, which I apologize if I'm not pronouncing his name properly. He's known for having a supercar company that makes EVs. So the fastest EV on the planet was, I believe, his hypercar. And again, I'm not a big fan of EVs, but in terms of technology and top speed, it is pretty cool what he's done for his company. So a lot of people were worried, well, what's he going to do with Bugatti, however you pronounce it or prefer to pronounce it. And thankfully, he had a great, 6-minute interview. Just go on the internet, you can see, his whole proper interview. And he does say how he wanted to take into account the vast history of Bugatti, what the customer base wants, what the expectations are. Because I think he knew if he would just make an EV Bugatti, it would probably only sell 3 units, maybe 4 if maybe a Saudi prince was drunk or something. No one really wants it. Again, the heritage of the Bugatti is a big engine, massive power, and breaking world records. Now, to me, it also should have a stick shift, like the good old iconic. Well, it wasn't really iconic. Actually, it was a fiscal commercial failure. But the EV was it EV110 for the Bugatti in the '90s era. But again, I know I'm the minority here. Just I know only a couple of people want stick shifts. I know these days, and it will be interesting. Now, again, in terms of craftsmanship, the mechanisms they have, and again, if you're just this is one of the few episodes where you really should be watching the show either on YouTube or the Big Green Competitor, where apparently if you just say that word, you get shadow banned, which Lord knows I have because one of my videos got like 1 view, which is statistically impossible, but nevertheless, the instrumentation panel, there's no BS LCD monitors visible. They do have one that pops up in the middle, but a majority of the controls are all analog. And impressively enough, they used a watch mechanism for the torque reader and the mile per hour reader. The whole instead of the traditional dash where you have, more often than not, currently you just have a fancy screen that'll tell you the key stuff. This actually has, I would argue, a work of art. And they're actually working with a Swiss watchmaker to have these custom mechanisms created. And again, when during the interview they asked him why would you do this? And why don't? Because again, the big trend nowadays is have the big OLED screens that are the size of the whole dashboard, which I think is kind of trash because it'll probably break, like electronics inherently do. But nevertheless, when asked about this, he said, "Hey, we're designing a car that's going to be around for 50 to 100 years. we need to take into account what are some things that are timeless, and watch mechanisms certainly are. I mean, the Rolex Submariner, I mean, that design has not changed much in decades and decades and decades, and when you see one to this day, they don't look too dated. Or you can just say my Garmin's pretty timeless as well. Huh, that's a joke, because, yeah, that's the butt of a lot of jokes to me and my friends. But nevertheless, the amount of craftsmanship they're putting in this vehicle is quite impressive, to say the least. Now, they do have a little screen that will, again, it's very well hidden. It's in the center console, which, I mean, the center console is actually, again, it's a work of art. Everything is so well designed. And then, if you want, I think you press a button and the screen pops up and then reorients itself to be from phone mode to landscape mode, or however you prefer the vernacular for that orientation of the screen. It is pretty darn cool, to say the least. And here's another couple pictures of it. Now, of course, it's, let's see here. He also said, again, this is the current CEO, Mate Rimac. He says, the development of the Bugatti Tourbillion was guided at every step by the 115 years of Bugatti history and the words of Ettore Bugatti himself, which, and I guess his mantra is, quote, his mantra is, if comparable, it is no longer Bugatti, nothing too beautiful. But were a guide path for me personally, as well as the design and the engineering teams looking to create the next exciting era in the Bugatti hypersport car category, or sorry. Now, they say that production won't begin until 2026, with the first 250 production cars delivered. Right now, the Tourbillion is currently in its testing phase to save. So to start, yeah, so they're saying, start saving up now. Yeah. Again, it looks amazing. Of course, personally, let's see, a nice couple pictures here on the monitor for us to see. I mean, it looks very familiar. It looks very familiar. Now, again, I know I'm only one of three people who, granted, I don't have the ability to buy it, but I can't help but think the only thing they could have done is to make this even more, more iconic, I would say, is he had the option for the stick shift. You're not going to sell all units. I know that, although Gordon Murray would probably beg to differ with his new updated model, but again, to me, and a lot of people would say, you can't have that much horsepower with the stick shift, it's not as fast as a computer, as some might say, but to me, part of a for me, I mean, it almost would feel like it's part of this design. Because again, they're trying to make it timeless. And another issue about this hybrids and the batteries, all that crap, or junk, whatever you call it, it's not timeless. It's going to break. When you look at the McLaren P1, again, many people say that's a great hypercar, it's iconic. I mean, it's nothing like the F1 in many ways. But, I mean, Tavares, one of the famous YouTubers, when he was restoring the flood car, one of the biggest costs was the batteries. The batteries on those things to replace cost more than my car. Threefold. And granted, I don't have a fancy car, just a Honda Civic Si. I love that little thing. Good old Gen 10, it's green. I was about to say, as all cars should be, but then it wouldn't be as unique. Well, that'd be a hilarious, bizarre world if all cars are green, but I partially digress. I mean, yeah, to me, that would be the Achilles heel of why EVs will be a hard long-term collectible, or why some collectors might not even get to that category. Because again, those technologies will inherently just break down. And how do you replace a battery that's been out of production for 50 years? That's another question to be had. But I don't know. I mean, I'm sure they'll sell out every single one of these units for the newest Bugatti. But let me know, do you think it's a big improvement on the design? Are you a big fan of it? Do you think any other company will overtake them as kind of the iconic top car on the planet? Let me know in the comments, because as always, it'd be fascinating to hear what you have to say. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to tune in. Again, trying to get to 4,000 subscribers by the end of the month. So if you could click that button, I would greatly appreciate it. Also, leaving a thumbs up, thumbs down, or comment is a great way to give me some additional feedback, letting me know how I can make the show better and better. Lastly, don't forget to take the time to tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, heck, tell your enemies, tell anyone and everyone. Just stay safe, fight the good fight.